Babandin Deffeh,
do swear that
do swear that
I will speak the truth,
I will speak the truth,
the whole truth,
and
and nothing but the truth.
nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Deffeh. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the TRRC.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, I know it was quite a challenge to get here in the middle of the rain. We had to fight through and run through the rain to get here, but we appreciate the fact that you went into the rain with your suit. Thank you very much for that. As you know, my name is Sagar, and I will be the council questioning you today. I will just go through some brief guidelines with you concerning some of our rules and regulations here at the TRRC. I would just advise you to assume a comfortable position, comfortable sitting position, so that you can give your testimony comfortably and with relative ease. Can you also make sure that our speeches do not overlap? Please answer the questions please answer to sorry, I'm getting my tongue twisted today. Please allow me to ask my questions before you answer them to avoid any overlap in speeches and also to allow for interpretations into the various local languages. I would also like to give you a brief overview of the different topics we will be exploring, and we will go through your educational background as well as your professional experience and the areas of expertise that you currently have, and the work that you do also with the network against gender-based violence and some of the challenges that you face in the course of your work as a medical doctor, and perhaps any recommendations you may have, or you may be willing to suggest to us, and also any final words that you may have. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Council.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit out of breath. That's as a result of all the running that I've been doing today. Can you please tell us what your full names are?
My name is Babandin Deffeh.
And where do you live?
I live in Wellingara.
Give me your date of birth and your place of birth, please.
I was born on the 1st of October 1975, Queenala Village, Kian Central, Lower River Region.
And what is your current address?
I now live in Wellingara.
What is your occupation?
I'm a medical doctor by profession.
And what is your current position now?
I'm a senior medical officer, Carnifing General Hospital, head of the maternity department, Carnifing General Hospital, focal person gender-based violence, Carnifing General Hospital.
Please provide us with your educational background and provide dates wherever possible.
I attended Queenala Primary School from 1983 to 1989, and then Tahir Ahmadiyya High School from 1989 to 94 in Masakonko, and then Gambia High School from 1994 to 1996.
And just kindly provide the qualifications you obtained after attending these various educational institutes.
Obviously, primary education, there's common entrance examination, then went to Tahir, did my O-level, then to Gambia High School, did my A-level.
Did you pursue higher education?
Yes, I went to Russia in 2001, to pursue my medical education for a period of 8 years, from 2001 to 2009.
And what qualification did you obtain at the end?
Doctor of Medicine.
Do you have any other higher education qualifications?
Yes, after completing, I came here, worked as a medical doctor, but subsequently, I also did my LLB at the UTG.
So you're also a lawyer?
Not yet, but I did my LLB from 2016 to 2018.
After you finished your professional training, did you receive any experience in the area of general medicine?
After complete my medical education, I worked at Royal Victoria Teaching Hospital, then was called now Edward Francis Teaching Hospital, where I did my housemanship training for a period of 2 years. It's an intensive training. You have to rotate all the discipline of medicine before you are licensed to work independently. After I worked there for 2 years, that is from 2011 to 2013, then I was moved to Carnifing General Hospital from 2013 to present.
And that is the current position you hold as senior medical officer, is that correct?
Yes, Council.
Do you have any area of specialization or expertise?
Well, gender-based violence, of course, when I worked at Carnifing, that's where I received my training locally. It was intensive. And I also train outside, which has a connection with the GBV. That was a fistula training.
All right, we will get to we will get to those aspects of your training, but can you just tell us, for those who don't know, what SGBV is?
It's sexual and gender-based violence. That comprised of rape, defilement, adoption, and then trafficking, wife battering, and etc.
Is it possible just to tell us briefly or give us some definition of all these different aspects of SGBV that you've named? For example, what is rape? What is defilement? I'm sure it might be obvious to you, but perhaps for some people it may not be.
Well, I think rape, as we look for any layman for us to understand, is having an affair with a woman without consent, forcefully. It can sometimes involve violence, and that from the age of up to the age of 16, from the Sexual Offense Act, and from 16 to 18, call it defilement with or without consent, is immaterial.
What do you mean by affair?
Means sexual relation, I mean.
Or otherwise sexual intercourse?
Intercourse, yes. Council.
Yeah, please proceed.
There's a domestic violence, as well as physical violence, means wife battering, beating your wives or your sister or your child at home, will result to physical injuries, will be considered as a domestic or a physical violence at home.
And what about defilement? What is that?
Defilement, having a carnal knowledge of a woman between the age of 16 and 18, with or without her consent.
There is some overlap between defilement and rape. Would you agree?
Yes, I think the age that differs. Before up to the age of 16, it may be considered as, even they consented, it could be considered as rape. But from 16 to 18, consent is immaterial. Whether they consented or not is considered as defilement. I stand to be corrected.
Very well, Doctor. You're the witness here, so we are here to listen to you. Can you give us other forms of sexual-based violence that you have encountered in your work?
Rape is the number one. We have battering by wife.
Either early and forced marriage as part of...
Thank you, Council. Yes, early and forced marriages also is still perpetuating in our society. Yes.
Do you have specific professional training in the area of SGBV?
Yes, as I told you, we had a training locally, which was very intensive in 2014, before we operationalized our center, that is the one-stop center in Carnifing.
Please tell us who conducted the training.
Training was conducted by a specialist, a gynecologist, Dr. Matthew.
What organization I was leaning towards?
Partnership with Network Against Gender-Based Violence.
And what was it on?
It's basically about the management of the victims of the sexual violence, domestic violence, and other forms of injury that women may encounter.
Were you the only one who received the training?
No, it's doctors and nurses.
And where did these doctors and nurses come from?
From Edward Francis Teaching Hospital, Carnifing, and other health facilities within the greater Banjul area, Combos.
Did you undergo any other kind of training?
Yes, I went to Tanzania in 2016 for fistula training.
And where was this training conducted?
At CCBRT, we call it Comprehensive Community-Based Rehabilitation Center.
And where in Tanzania is this located?
Tanzania, it's not East Africa or
No, I meant where in Tanzania?
in Dar es Salaam, the capital.
Very well. Can you tell us what kind of training you received there?
Well, management of the fistula cases, the obstetric fistula, but there also I learned that it's not obstetric fistula, it's not only labor or the that cause fistula. There I learned that gang rape can also result to fistula, whereby women are raped and then the object were left or introduced into their private part, causing injury and causing fistula.
Doctor, we are lay people here in the medical profession. Can you just tell us what fistula is?
Fistula is an opening between the bladder and the vagina. Thereby the woman keep on wetting herself continuously. It normally happens after delivery, or as I tell you, the gang rape or any form of violence that may be impacted on a woman.
Apart from gang rape, which you mentioned causes fistula, can you tell us any other forms of SGBV that can lead to fistula?
The other one that may cause may not be directly, but like female genital mutilation or we call circumcision, sometimes they are sealed, and that can make labor obstructed. Obstructed in the sense that the woman cannot deliver for long hours, and as a result, that may cause injury to the bladder. Thereby, a woman subsequently will keep wetting herself throughout.
And what about the practice of FGM would directly lead to fistula?
It may not directly lead, but it can be indirectly can lead to fistula, as I explained.
Just explain the process to us. What about the practice of FGM would lead to that?
Well, sometimes it is done in a way that you cut the labia majora and then the clitoris are all cut together. And as a result, there will be scar. So during labor, there may not be stretching of that for baby to come out. As a result, that obstructed labor will occur, means the baby cannot come out. And for the head of the baby in that position, because if you look at it, its bladder is above it. So it can cause a injury, because necrosis, and as a result, even after when they deliver, they can have what we call a fistula from that area because of the necrosis, and then the skin there can slug off and then also can create a hole there.
Thank you very much for that explanation. Can you also just keep in mind that some of these medical terms can be a bit difficult for the interpreters to interpret, so perhaps wherever possible, you can just simplify the language so that we can all follow.
Thank you, Counsel.
Thank you. You also mentioned gang rape, and you mentioned objects being inserted into the vagina of women. Can you just explain that to us more clearly, please?
Yes, I think it's a self-explanatory. You had an affair with a woman unlawfully or without her consent, and the worst of all, because you are satisfied, now you use any object and you push, and you left the woman like that.
And what would that be termed as? Would that be a form of rape?
It's a rape, at the same time also a violent domestic, I will call it, a physical one, because you caused in the injury.
And you mentioned gang rape as well. What does gang rape involve?
Well, people, we call them, they might be bandits or group of people who maybe saw a woman and then they get hold of her and then forcefully sleep with her without her consent.
It involves more than one person or a group of people?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. What other kind of cases did you see whilst you were at Tanzania, or were you trained on?
Well, I saw also fistula cases. That's as a result of labor. As I told you, Tanzania is a Christian country. The majority would call it a Christian, but you realize that from the statistics when I was there, show that they have equal number of the FGM, and then even among Christian is practiced. So it's 50-50 base. So in that situation, As I told you, the circumcision scar causing obstructed labor may also result to this fistula. Not directly, but as a complication it can.
So you would agree that in Tanzania, the practice of FGM is
Yes.
derived more from culture rather than religion?
Culture, yes.
Okay, thank you. When did you start working with cases of SGBV?
2014,
And in what capacity?
as a senior medical officer.
And what motivated you to go into that particular area of work?
Well, I felt at that time I was the only doctor, Gambian doctor at Kanifing. So obviously the responsibility lies on my head. I'm a Gambian, these are Gambians. And then I feel that they need to be helped, and then the justice should be done on their behalf. And by doing that is to attend to them and then write a medical report and go and testify in court, which I've done in many occasions.
Are there many doctors who concentrate on this area?
Unfortunately, Gambians, doctors don't like going to court, and for that reason, many don't want to attend to GVV, unfortunately.
I'm sure we will come to that area about the constraints you have with the courts. But for now, just let's carry on with your medical experience dealing with cases of SGBV. You mentioned that you're the focal person at Kanifing General Hospital, is that correct?
Yes, Council.
What does your duties and responsibility entail?
My duties and responsibility is to oversee the operation of the one-stop center at Kanifing General Hospital, receive the victims of the GVV, attend to them, you will clag them, which means you take the history, examine them to identify any injury, and then give treatment if need be, and also investigate them further to find out what possible long-term complications these women can have, children can have. And also provide statistics quarterly to network against gender-based violence.
So in your capacity as the focal person, you work with the network?
Yes, Council.
Is there anything else you do working with the network at Kanifing Hospital?
Well, basically, these are the things that I do with them. Attend to victims of the sexual violence and report to them, and answer any question concerning GBV in Kanifing General Hospital.
Have you heard of the one-stop centers?
Yes, Council.
And do you do any work in relation to that at Kanifing?
Yes, we have a one-stop center, which means different services within one unit. That is the medical services, the social worker services, and also the services of the lawyer. When GBV happens, or when a rape or defilement, whatever forms of sexual violence happen, you need to put these three people together in order to help the survivor. So in a nutshell, it's a holistic approach in helping the victims of the GBV.
Can you just take us step by step through the different services that are provided? For example, what medical services are provided, what legal services are provided, and what psychosocial support is provided?
Medical services, as I mentioned earlier on, is about taking the history of what happened, the scene of the incident, their medical condition prior to that incident, examination, that the physical examination, obviously genital examination, and also investigations, like do HIV tests, hepatitis tests, pregnancy tests, if they are more than 12 years, and also providing medications to them.
What about the counseling services you mentioned? Who provides that, and how is it provided?
Usually social workers provide that counseling. If there is